Showtime! The Capital G show starts right now.
What's up YouTube, Capital G here, doing another episode of Hidden Gems. I haven't done this series in quite some time, but I found the card that I guess I've always liked. I've always thought that it's a really good card, but now that we're in a format where protecting spells and traps seems to be imperative, especially in games 2 and 3, I think that this card can actually get some consideration and recognition. The card that I'm talking about is Card Guard. It's a Fiend effect monster, dark attribute. Level 4, 1600 attack, 500 defense, and the effect is when this card is normal or special summon, place one Card Guard counter on it. This card gains 300 attack for each guard counter on it. Once per turn, you can target one other face-up card you control, remove one guard counter from this card, and if you do, place one guard counter on that target. If that card would be destroyed, remove one guard counter from it instead. So basically, it's like Breaker the Magical Warrior, but instead of being able to pop a card, you basically place a counter on the card, and then if your opponent tries to destroy that card or that monster or whatever, you can just remove the counter and it's not destroyed. So I think that this card is actually pretty decent right now, and as you might have guessed, it obviously works best as a combo-oriented card. You know, I kind of see this guy sharing the same exact role that like Master Key Beetle does, you know, in games 2 and 3 where you side deck in your lockdown cards against your high tier decks like Prophecy and Mermail and Dragon Ruler. This guy basically just steps up and he gives you the extra protection that you need so that you can survive against those, you know, random MSTs or stuff like that. You know, we all know how good cards like Iron Wall and Soul Drain or Dimensional Fissure are coming out of the side deck. You know, so if your opponent happens to rip that MST, use the Deadly and Dreaded Blaster effect, which again is one of the most potent effects that the Dragon Ruler deck has, especially games 2 and 3, because it doesn't matter what you side in against that deck, whether it be a monster, spell, and trap, he is that card that answers everything. Or maybe your opponent is really desperate, they're just going to Black Rose and clear the entire board. That's what I like about Card Guard is it doesn't matter how much destruction your opponent throws at you, whether it's nuking the entire field or whether it's isolated to trying to get rid of one card. You know, the Card Guard counter gives your card that protection, you know, and it's pretty much going to make your opponent go to hell and back to try and get rid of that card. And what's great about Card Guard, you know, as opposed to something like you know, Master Key Beetle is, number one, this guy does not have to stay face up to keep his protection. So if your opponent dark holes you or your opponent runs over Card Guard, it doesn't matter. You know, your key spell or trap is going to keep its protection. And the second is that you can splash this guy into anything. You know, Master Key Beetle, you're pretty much bound to dark based decks like Gravekeepers and Black Wings and Evil Swarm. I mean, you can summon Card Guard in gadgets or, you know, whatever may be. And then I think it pretty much goes without saying that if you have Card Guard and then you flip over a Vanity's Emptiness against a deck like Dragon Rulers, how ridiculous that is. Like, it's much better than the Master Key Beetle lock. I also have to mention that Card Guard actually has some really good stats. I mean, the second that this guy hits the board, he's 1900, so you can run over Shuras, you can run over Boras, you can push in for some good direct damage. And I also think that if you're really creative, there are ways that you can get a decent amount of damage out of this card. For instance, let's say you're playing against Dragon Rulers and they've got Card Trooper and Blaster, and you maybe have one monster on board. Like, let's say you have a Bora or something like that. Okay, well, if your opponent's really low on life points, you can summon Card Guard, you can use this effect on Card Trooper, and then you can ram it to it twice. They can't kill Card Trooper after the first time because you can just activate the effect rather than having to try and run in the blaster or something like that. And who knows, you might even win off the damage. That would be a good that would be a good way to use this effect so that you can push out a whole bunch of damage. You can punish your opponent for putting weak monsters on board. You know what I mean? So I think that this card is actually, it's probably not playable at the highest level, but you know, for casual play, for maybe combo oriented decks, if you're siding in against Dragon Rulers and you know that you have to hit that Vanity's Emptiness early, you have to hit your Iron Wall, your Iron Wall early, this is definitely a card to consider. And again, I mean, even if you just have one other monster on the board, you can always just summon Card Guard, put it on your other random monster, and you know, now he's protected from battle, he's protected from Mirror Force or Dark Hole or Torrential Tribute or something like that. So let me know what you guys think of this card. I've always thought that it's pretty legit, but in a format where we now have all these really powerful traps that just lock decks out, I think that, you know, the card deserves a little bit of consideration. Thank you for watching as always. Subscribing makes life happy.